He has leapt off the world's tallest building. He has dangled from a speeding plane at 5,000 feet. He has broken ankles, torn muscles, and shattered ribs. And every single time, he got back up and asked the director if the shot was good. Tom Cruise doesn't use stunt doubles. He never has. But what most people don't know is that the most terrifying stunts of Tom Cruise's life had nothing to do with Hollywood. They happened before he ever set foot on a movie set, in a house ruled by fear, in a childhood that would have broken anyone else. This is the story of a boy who was invisible, and a man who made the entire world watch him. Thomas Cruise Mapplethorpe IV was born on July 3, 1962, in Syracuse, New York. His parents, Thomas Mapplethorpe III and Mary Lee, had 4 children and almost no money. By the time Tom was a teenager, the family had moved 15 times, 15 schools, 15 times being the new kid, 15 times having to prove himself from scratch. But the moving wasn't the hardest part. Tom's father was, by Tom's own description, a bully, a cruel, unpredictable man who beat his children and made the household feel like a minefield. Tom has said in interviews that his father was a person where, if something goes wrong, they kick you. He called him a coward, a man who took his anger out on the people who couldn't fight back. Then at age 11, his parents divorced. His mother eventually remarried, and suddenly Tom had a stepfather. The instability didn't stop, it just changed shape. And here is the twist nobody talks about. Tom Cruise is severely dyslexic. He could barely read. In a world where everyone around him seemed to understand things he couldn't, Tom felt stupid, slow, left behind. So how does a dyslexic kid from a broken home who's attended 15 schools and been beaten down emotionally his entire life become one of the biggest stars in cinema history? He finds the one place where none of that matters. He finds a stage. At 14, Tom landed in Glen Ridge, New Jersey. His new high school had a drama department. On a dare, or maybe out of desperation, he auditioned for a school musical called Guys and Dolls. He got the lead role, and something clicked. Here was a place where you didn't need to be the smartest. You didn't need to have stayed in the same town for 3 years. You needed to feel something, and then make other people feel it too. Tom could do that. Tom was extraordinary at that. He briefly considered becoming a Catholic priest. He enrolled in a seminary at 15, but the pull of performance was too strong. He dropped out and told his mother he was going to be an actor. At 18, he packed a bag and moved to New York City with $300. He slept on floors, he waited tables, he auditioned for anything he could find. The first real break came in 1981 with Endless Love, a tiny role but a foot in the door. Then came Taps, where he starred alongside Timothy Hutton and Sean Penn. Directors started whispering the name, Tom Cruise. But it was 1983's Risky Business that changed everything. That scene, Tom Cruise sliding across a hardwood floor in white socks and a pink dress shirt, lip-syncing to Bob Seger's old-time rock and roll, wasn't even in the original script. It was improvised, and it became one of the most iconic images in 1980s pop culture. The boy who couldn't read had found his language. In 1986, Tom Cruise put on aviator sunglasses and a leather jacket, and the world lost its mind. Top Gun made $357 million at the box office against a $15 million budget. It was a cultural earthquake. U.S. Navy recruitment shot up 500% after the film's release. Tom Cruise was no longer just a promising young actor, he was the biggest movie star on the planet. But Tom wasn't satisfied. He didn't want to just be famous. He wanted to be taken seriously. In 1988, he starred in Rain Man alongside Dustin Hoffman, and while Hoffman won the Oscar, critics were stunned by Tom's controlled, emotionally complex performance. Then came Born on the 4th of July in 1989, Oliver Stone's devastating Vietnam drama. Tom was nominated for his first Academy Award. The boy who had been told he was stupid, the kid who couldn't read, was now being compared to the greatest actors of his generation. Shocking fact, Tom Cruise reportedly memorized his scripts by having someone read them aloud to him repeatedly, then drilling the lines through repetition, a technique forced on him by his dyslexia that ironically made his performances feel more naturally spoken than those of actors who read from pages. But fame and success brought their own complications, and in 1990, the most consequential event of Tom Cruise's personal life was about to begin. Not on a film set, but on the set of a movie called Days of Thunder, where he would fall in love with his co-star. Her name was Nicole Kidman. Before we get to Nicole, we need to talk about the thing that defines and divides everything about Tom Cruise's adult life: Scientology. In 1986, Tom Cruise was introduced to the Church of Scientology by his first wife, actress Mimi Rogers. He was 23 years old. He was famous, wealthy, and, by his own account, still struggling with the shame of his dyslexia. The church offered him a program called Study Technology, developed by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, which claimed to help people with learning difficulties. For Tom, it worked. He credits Scientology with teaching him how to read properly as an adult. That debt of gratitude, real or perceived, transformed into total devotion. Over the following years, Tom Cruise rose through the church's secretive internal hierarchy to become what insiders describe as the second most powerful Scientologist in the world, behind only the church's leader, David Miscavige, who also became Tom's closest personal friend. The relationship between Tom and Miscavige is extraordinary. Former church insiders have alleged that Sea organization members were assigned to perform personal tasks for Tom Cruise, renovating his cars, building him a custom gym, and functioning as unpaid personal staff. The church has denied many of these claims. Former members, including ex-senior executives like Marty Rathbun and Mike Rinder, have described a culture where criticism of Tom Cruise inside the church was treated as a form of heresy. He was, and may still be, Scientology's most powerful recruiting tool. Here is where it gets deeply uncomfortable. Multiple women who dated or married Tom Cruise have been connected to Scientology in ways that raise serious questions. Questions about whether the church played a role in vetting, managing, and ultimately ending his relationships. This is a story we will return to. Tom Cruise has been married 3 times. Each marriage ended. Each ending left more questions than answers. Mimi Rogers, 1987 to 1989. Mimi was 7 years older than Tom. She introduced him to Scientology. Their divorce was quiet, professional. But Mimi later gave an interview in which she said, and this is not a rumor, this is a direct quote, that Tom had the idea he might be a monk and that he wanted to practice celibacy. The interview caused a sensation. Mimi later said she regretted the quote. Tom has never publicly responded. Nicole Kidman, 1990 to 2001. This is the marriage the world watched. Tom and Nicole were Hollywood royalty, beautiful, talented, seemingly in love. They adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor. They made Eyes Wide Shut together under Stanley Kubrick. But in February 2001, Tom filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The filing came while Nicole's 3 months pregnant. She miscarried. The timeline, the circumstances, the speed of it all. Nicole has spoken about this period as the most painful of her life. What happened? Multiple accounts, including those from former Scientology officials, suggest that the church placed Nicole under surveillance, that her phone calls were monitored, that she was considered a threat to Tom's commitment to Scientology. Nicole herself has never directly confirmed this, but she has distanced herself from the church completely. Their son Connor and daughter Isabella remain practicing Scientologists. Nicole rarely speaks about their relationship with them publicly. The silence itself is deafening. Katie Holmes, 2006 to 2012. The relationship began like a fairy tale, or a publicity stunt, depending on who you ask. Tom famously jumped on Oprah Winfrey's couch in 2005, declaring his love for Katie. The world laughed, cringed, and couldn't look away. They married in a Scientology ceremony in Italy. Their daughter Suri was born in 2006. And then in 2012, Katie Holmes filed for divorce, secretly, from a phone that Tom reportedly didn't know she had, to lawyers she had been consulting for months in private. She requested sole custody of Suri. The divorce was finalized in just 11 days, extraordinarily fast for a celebrity split, suggesting an agreement had been prepared in advance. Katie and Suri moved to New York. Suri, now young adult, has been photographed hundreds of times over the years, almost never with her father. While Tom Cruise's personal life was fracturing, his professional life was reaching levels of physical commitment that no other A-list star in Hollywood history has matched. Mission Impossible launched in 1996. By the time we reached Mission Impossible Fallout in 2018, Tom Cruise had broken his ankle on camera and finished the take before going to hospital. The footage is in the film. You can hear the bone break if you listen carefully. He has held his breath underwater for 6 minutes to prepare for a scene. He trained with the U.S. Air Force to actually pilot fighter jets. He performed 106 takes of a single piano piece for a scene in Magnolia until his fingers bled. In Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, released in 2023, Tom Cruise rode a motorcycle off a cliff, a ramp built on an actual Norwegian mountain, and then deployed a parachute. He performed this jump multiple times. He had trained for over a year. He spent months skydiving to prepare for the freefall. Why does a man with hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, who could hire the best stuntmen alive, keep putting his own body on the line? People close to Tom have suggested the answer is control. A man who grew up with no control, beaten, moved constantly, humiliated by his inability to read, has found in physical extremity the one domain where he is completely in command, where he and no one else decides what happens to his body. If that's true, it is both the most inspiring and most heartbreaking thing about Tom Cruise. For all his physical invincibility, Tom Cruise was not immune to public humiliation. It began in earnest in 2005. The couch-jumping incident on Oprah, intended to express joy, read as unhinged. Then came the Today Show interview with Matt Lauer, during which Tom attacked the concept of psychiatry and criticized actress Brooke Shields for using antidepressants after postpartum depression. The backlash was unlike anything Tom had experienced. He was no longer America's golden boy, he was punchline. His film War of the Worlds performed well, but the cultural conversation had shifted. Paramount Pictures did not renew his contract in 2006. Chairman Sumner Redstone publicly stated that Tom Cruise's erratic behavior had cost the studio money. This was a studio executive publicly firing the biggest movie star in the world. For a man whose entire identity was built on control, discipline, and winning, this was a kind of death. But Tom Cruise does not stay down. Top Gun Maverick was supposed to release in 2020. COVID delayed it until May 2022. What followed was one of the most remarkable commercial and critical comebacks in Hollywood history. Top Gun Maverick earned $1.49 billion worldwide, making it the highest-grossing film of Tom Cruise's career. Critics who had spent 15 years dismissing him were forced to rewrite their narratives. The film was genuinely excellent. Tom Cruise, at age 59, was doing aerial sequences in an actual FA-18 Super Hornet. He didn't just come back, he reminded the world why he was there in the first place. But here is what the celebration missed. Here is what we need to come back to in part 2. The more Tom Cruise dominates the box office, the more questions grow louder about the things he has never answered, about the people who have left his life and why, about the daughter he rarely sees, about an organization that has shaped every major decision of his adult life. Tom Cruise has survived an abusive father, 15 schools, dyslexia, 3 divorces, a public breakdown, and a studio blacklisting. He has built an empire through sheer, almost inhuman will. But there is one question that has never been answered. One person who knows the full truth about who Tom Cruise really is, off the cameras, off the sets, away from the stunts and the smiling and the running. And that person has stayed silent. Until now. In part 2, we go behind the walls of Scientology's most secret compound. We talk to the people who were there. We examine documents. And we ask the question that every journalist has been afraid to ask. What does Tom Cruise actually believe? And what has it cost the people he loves? Subscribe. Hit the bell. Because part 2 is coming. And this is where the real story begins.